Alright, I reviewed the first three parts of this crossover. I'm more than halfway there. I might as well go all the way. So, hit me with your best shot, Greg Berlanti. I've come this far and my resolve is strong. There's nothing, I repeat, nothing you can do that's gonna break me now. How did I hang myself if I live in outer space? That's just crazy. Still makes more sense than this crossover. Speaking of which, let's dive into part 4, because something happened in this one that made me feel very smug. But we're not there yet. Let's start at the beginning, which is 10,000 years ago on the planet Maltus, where we find the Monitor and his wife doing whatever they did to give birth to the Anti-Monitor. They open a portal to the dawn of time, and the Monitor goes through it, but his presence corrupted the place, and it breached the wall between this universe and the antimatter universe. No explanation for how or why any of this happened exactly, but maybe they did that in a previous episode or something. So the Anti-Monitor appears, and that's where he came from. I could have used more information on this part, but the weirdest thing for me was seeing the Monitor and his wife talking so normally, using modern Earth terms and slang like this isn't taking place 10,000 years ago on a faraway planet. It's very awkward and off-putting, but this is the CW, what do you expect? Anyway, cut to Vanishing Point, where Ryan Choi is writing a letter to his wife, the wife who doesn't exist anymore, explaining what the situation is. They've been there for a few months at this point, and they're all trying to cope in their own way, except for Barry, who has disappeared. Meanwhile, Ryan and Lex have been attempting to repurpose Time Master tech to, I guess, take them back in time so they can stop all this from happening. John volunteers to be the guinea pig. I guess he stopped going by Hank at some point, but I've only seen Supergirl Season 1, so I don't know when that happened. But Kara volunteers Lex instead because, well, she likes to hold a grudge. But the point is moot because it doesn't work anyway. Then Barry blasts in, and he's been gone for months, but for him it was only a few seconds. He was trying to access the Speed Force because he thought that could get them out of there, but he can't reach it. Cut to Purgatory and Oliver, who is the Spectre now. He's flashing back over all the battles he's ever fought, and Jim Corrigan tells him that everything he's done has led him to this moment, and that Oliver can beat the Anti-Monitor with help. Dude! Spoilers! And it's time to go collect his friends. Back at Vanishing Point, Barry still thinks the Speed Force is the key to saving them, and he wants to try to get to it again, and everyone is trying to stop him, even though they literally have no other options right now. Which seems really stupid to me. At least Barry's trying something. What the hell's your plan? To just sit around and do nothing until you all die of old age? Wait, so suddenly Barry is not the stupidest person in the room? How the hell did that happen? So then Oliver appears, and he confirms that the Speed Force is indeed the key to saving everyone, so Barry had the right idea. Well, I suppose even a broken clock is right twice a day. Oliver explains that the universe has now been replaced by the Antimatter universe, and they have to undo all of this, so they have to go confront the Anti-Monitor at the dawn of time, but they also need a backup plan in case they can't defeat him, so some of them will need to go to Maltus 10,000 years ago and stop the Anti-Monitor from being created in the first place. I can feel the smugness rising. It's coming. It's coming. But to get them to these places, Barry will need to connect to the Speed Force, so Oliver gives him a little boop, and that somehow unlocks Barry's potential. He didn't use air quotes when he said that, but he damn well should have. Oliver says to run, Barry, run, because the writers really want that to be some kind of iconic phrase, so the characters just keep on saying it. Barry takes everyone into the Speed Force, and very quickly Kara, Ryan, and Lex get spit out on Maltus 10,000 years in the past. Oh yeah, it's time. Are you guys ready for the smugness? Because here it comes. Through the use of time travel, which between Barry and the Wave Rider, these dumbasses had easy access to for this entire crossover, they have gone back to a time before the multiverse was destroyed, and miraculously, it's still there. You know why? Because it hasn't been destroyed yet. But how can this be? Because many intelligent and informed fans who have watched every episode and claim to know these shows so much better than I do have told me repeatedly, making sure to explain how stupid I am for not understanding this, that the multiverse was destroyed across all time periods, past, present, and future, so there was no past to go back to, and that's why they couldn't simply go back in time to save Oliver and stop the quantum tower from being destroyed and all that stuff. And my response is that this argument is stupid, because if the past of Universe 38 was destroyed, then there would have been no universe for the first 5 seasons of Supergirl to take place in, but since all that stuff did in fact take place, clearly the past still exists, and all they would have to do is time travel back to the past to fix everything. And now, guess what they're doing? They're time traveling to the past to fix everything because the past still exists. So put me down for a big fat I told you so if any of these clowns in the comments section try to get in my face about this shit again. I said from the beginning that this whole thing fell apart if you just use your brain and think about it for a few seconds. Now, if you people didn't feel like using your brains, that's not my problem. That's on you. But the next time I say that these shows are stupid and don't make sense, why don't you consider that I might not be an asshole who doesn't know what he's talking about, and maybe, just maybe, I'm only saying this because your beloved shows aren't as well written as you thought they were. That felt good. And you know what else feels good? When characters actually act intelligently. We're on Maltus, Ryan and Kara are talking, Ryan thinks they need to head for those buildings in the distance, and then Kara notices that Lex has disappeared. Then I start yelling at the TV, "So just find him with your super hearing, you idiot! You've done that to find missing people before!" And then she actually does that. She did it off screen, but she didn't have any trouble finding Lex, which was a very nice surprise, to see Kara not being written like an idiot for a change. If only the writers of her own show could pull that off. So Kara says that she's gonna figure out what Lex is up to and she's gonna stop him, and he tells her to just stop beating around a bush and ask him what he's up to, so she does. And then he says, "Universal domination!" and knocks her and Ryan unconscious with an energy blast, because when he had the Book of Destiny, he used it to give himself superpowers. So that's another thing the book can do, but it still can't bring Oliver back to life? It seems to me that the Book of Destiny is a giant deus ex machina that can do pretty much anything the plot requires except bring Oliver back to life. I still don't understand this. Why can it do everything else but not that? I keep waiting for an explanation about this, and no one has been able to give me one. Cut to Barry getting spit out into a Queen Consolidated building. Oliver shows up and says that the Anti-Monitor attacked them. Off screen, of course, because why would we want to see something cool like that? So now they're all kind of lost, and Oliver is using their memories to keep them from falling out of the Speed Force, and he tells Barry that he has to find everyone by thinking about the moments that the bonds between them were forged, and considering what happens later, that doesn't make any sense at all. So Barry tries to do this, but his aim is a little bit off, and he winds up in the DCEU face-to-face with Ezra Miller's Flash. Holy shit! And that might have been really cool if Ezra Miller's Flash wasn't so damn irritating, but I'm sure there were some people who got a kick out of this. And I don't remember hearing anything about it, so kudos to the producers for keeping it a secret at least. Cut back to the Speed Force, where Kate finds herself in a Queen Consolidated building where Oliver is talking to Ray Palmer. This seems to take place sometime during Arrow Season 3, so I don't know what Kate is doing here since she wasn't a thing yet, and I don't even think this took place on her world. So they're talking, and then Oliver turns around and he sees her, and he's like, "Who are you?" We cut to somewhere else in the Speed Force, and we see Oliver talking to Kara. I believe this is during the Heroes vs. Aliens crossover, and then John shows up. Then we cut back to Maltus, where Ryan Choi, the normal guy with no superpowers, wakes up before Supergirl, and he has to get her up on her feet. Does it make sense? Not even a little bit. But I still liked it, because after all the gender politics in the first 2 parts of this crossover, making the male characters look like absolute garbage, the men needed to catch up a little bit. So again, Ryan questions why he's a Paragon and wonders if they had the right guy, and Kara gives him a pep talk to encourage him because she's the paragon of hope, and that's what she does, I guess. And she thinks that Lex is going to try to mess with the Monitor's experiment, so they know where he's going. Back in the Speed Force, we're flashing back to another crossover, and Super Cuck is fighting evil Super Cuck, who has the Book of Destiny, and then Oliver shoots the book with some Deus Ex Machina arrow that saves everybody, and then Barry arrives and he gets Oliver to remember what's going on, and then Oliver tells Barry about the deal he made with the Monitor, trading his life for Barry and Kara. Barry is horrified, and he's all, "But Oliver, you gave up your family for this!" Because Barry doesn't really understand selflessness for the greater good. Barry is always putting his own needs and wants first, and everything else second. That's just what he does. So this is kind of a foreign concept to him. But Oliver says that he's okay with dying, he's at peace, and the real heroes are the ones who have to keep going. No, Oliver. No. No, the real hero is the one who sacrifices everything they want to do what's right, while everyone else is being a selfish prick. You got things backwards there, dude. You, Oliver Queen, are the hero in this situation. Certainly not Barry Allen or Kate Kane. Cut to somewhere else in the Speed Force, and now we're back in Arrow Season 3, right after Sara was killed, and we're in the Arrow Cave, and Dig is encouraging Laurel to put on the mask and be the new Canary. And it's been a while since I saw Arrow Season 3, but I'm about 99% sure that never happened. Am I remembering wrong? As I recall, Team Arrow were really against the idea of Laurel doing that. Because, you know, she could get killed. So Barry shows up and he brings Sara back to life somehow and he speeds off with her. And then he finds John, who's telling Oliver and Kara how they'll all come to trust each other someday. And then Barry shows up and speeds off with him. Then we cut to Kate, who tells Oliver that this is kind of what he does. He doesn't trust people at first and they don't trust him. But then that changes, and maybe she can learn something from him. And I will credit the writers here, because this is an incredibly uncharacteristic moment of self-awareness and humility on Kate's part that she has never shown to be capable of on her own show. If Batwoman had more genuine moments like this, Kate would not be nearly as appalling a character as she is. Then Barry shows up and speeds off with her too. Cut back to Maltus, where Lex confronts the Monitor and tells him why he can't open the portal, and Lex is going to help him with this experiment and figure out why it's not working, and in return, the Monitor will soon have abilities that Lex wants in order to deal with some super problems back on his own world. If you're wondering why Lex couldn't simply give himself those powers when he had the Book of Destiny, well, so am I. The Monitor seems to be going along with this, but then Kara barges in and she's like, "Don't trust him, he's a bad guy." And the Monitor's like, "Yeah, okay. I don't know what's going on here, but whatever." Then Ryan just takes him away so Supergirl and Lex can throw down. So Ryan stresses to the Monitor that he can't open the portal because... And the very fact that Ryan is here right now is proof of that, which really doesn't make any sense. But the Monitor accepts this for some reason and says that Ryan is a remarkable individual. What is he basing this on? Ryan Choi has done virtually nothing since he showed up. Literally all he's done is say to the Monitor, "I'm a thing," and that proves that opening the portal would be bad. If you're going to emotionally validate him, at least have him do something to earn it first. So Lex and Kara have their fight, and it's another one of these really corny TV fights where they fight for 5 seconds, and then talk for a while, and then fight for another couple seconds, and then talk again. I don't know why TV shows always do this. It never stops being lame. Then they do that thing where they blast each other, and the blasts connect, and it's going to come down to whose blast is stronger. But they don't get to decide a winner because Ryan comes in and tells them that they can stop fighting because the Monitor has decided not to open the portal after all, so now the Anti-Monitor will never exist. Then Barry shows up and speeds off with all of them. Cut to the antimatter universe at the dawn of time, where Barry has finally assembled everybody. It turns out that the antimatter universe is just some random rock quarry with a Photoshop filter on it, so they're taking a page from the Power Rangers book of production design here. And the Anti-Monitor is still alive, because apparently even though the heroes stopped the Monitor of this universe from opening the portal, some other Monitor in another universe opened the portal instead, because some things are just inescapable. Alright, I can almost buy that. So the Anti-Monitor's demon army shows up ready to throw down again, and then Oliver appears and tells them that being Paragons means that they're powerful enough to hold the line and buy them the time they need to rebirth the universe. But honestly, I don't know how powerful they really need to be for this, because it seems like these demons are hilariously easy to kill. I mean, they showed Sara killing these demons just by kicking them. Literally, one kick and they just disappear. They showed Ryan Choi killing these things with one punch! One punch! And he has no powers or fight training whatsoever! These demons are so pathetic that John doesn't even bother shapeshifting into the Martian Manhunter. He doesn't have to. He fights them in his human form and doesn't even use his alien powers. That's how pathetic they are. I mean, Jesus Christ, you really have to wonder how the hell these things were able to kill Oliver in the first place. Because if this fight is any indication, these demons are bigger jobbers than the League of Assassins. And after the Arrow writers nerfed the League of Assassins into oblivion like you wouldn't fucking believe, that is saying quite a lot. I mean, it seems like you can kill these things just by passing your hand through them. Realistically, Barry or Kara by themselves with no help should be able to single-handedly annihilate this entire demon army in a matter of seconds. But we left realism behind a long time ago, so for the purposes of the story, we just have to pretend that the heroes actually have their hands full here. In other words, f*** it, it's in the script. So while that fight is going on, the real fight is between Oliver and the Anti-Monitor. They do some CGI blasty stuff until Oliver overcomes the Anti-Monitor's power, and he says the line, "You have failed this universe!" It's a cheesy line, but it's a callback that works, and it's a fitting line for Oliver to go out on, so I'll let it slide. And then Oliver shoots I-beams into the sky, and I'm not really sure what's happening anymore. The demon army just disappears. And then Lex, being the paragon of truth, thinks that truth is what they need now, and that they should use what's left of the Book of Destiny, meaning that one page that he ripped out and kept in his pocket, to fan the flame after Oliver lit the spark. That's what Oliver told them to do. But it's not clear what that means, because in actuality, they don't do anything here. Literally, all they do is remind each other which paragons each of them are. Love, honor, humanity, blah blah blah. And then nothing happens. They just stand there and watch Oliver while he does everything himself. They could all run over there and help Oliver fight the Anti-Monitor so he doesn't have to sacrifice himself to beat this guy. But they don't. They just stand there doing nothing like total jackasses. If the Book of Destiny was supposed to do something here or factor into this in some way, it didn't. If they were all focusing on the book to make the book do something to help Oliver like they said they were, that was not shown. They didn't make the page glow and shoot an energy beam into Oliver to make him stronger or something. Nothing happened. All they did was stand there. So all this CG fire energy stuff appears around Oliver and the Anti-Monitor, and then they explode, I think. And then Oliver is magically not the Spectre anymore for some reason, and he's dying, though I have no clue how he can die when he's already technically a ghost. So Barry grabs Sara and speeds her up there, and Oliver congratulates them and says they did it, even though they really didn't. Oliver did everything. All the others did was waste time fighting a bunch of demons that were so weak the fucking Condiment King could have kicked their asses, and then stood there watching like idiots while Oliver had to sacrifice himself again, doing the only thing that really mattered in this situation. And then the writers actually have the balls to parrot the line, "The real heroes are the ones who keep going." That. Did you not see what just happened? Oliver is the hero here. He did literally everything. In fact, I would argue that if you remove the Paragons from this situation altogether, the outcome would still be exactly the same. The only difference would be that the demon army would have been free to attack Oliver now, but given how comically nerfed those demons were just shown to be, I highly doubt that would mean anything to the fucking Spectre. And since we're on that topic, I really have to question why this whole Paragon thing was even necessary in the first place. Why did they have to waste so much time searching the multiverse to find these specific 7 people? In a well-written story, it would be because each character has a very specific role to play, something that only that character and no one else can do. But the only one that really applies to is Barry. Barry's the only one who can access the Speed Force and get them all to the Dawn of Time place, I mean, maybe Wally could do that too, but I don't know if he's still a thing. So Barry was necessary. And of course Oliver was necessary because he's the only character who could actually do what needed to be done here. But what about the other 6 Paragons? What made them so special? Why were they Paragons and not someone else? Because in the end, this just boiled down to a big fight scene against a pathetically weak demon army, which clearly can be defeated by physical means, and you don't need to be superpowered or even be a fighter in order to kill them. So I will ask again, what the hell is so special about being a Paragon? Because it seems to me that you could have put any 6 random-ass characters in this spot and gotten the same result. The only 2 that really mattered were Oliver and Barry, and once the fight started, it was really all Oliver. So sorry to anyone who actually enjoyed this farce, but as far as I can see, from minute 1, this entire Paragon story has been a bunch of bullshit. See this? This is my microphone. I'm not going to drop it because I paid a lot of money for it, so instead I'm going to place it carefully back on the desk like so. And that's the end of my fucking rant. Now let's wrap this shit up and get out of here. Oliver tells Barry and Sara to keep going and that the world needs both of them, and it's strange that he's saying this to Sara while Kara isn't even there. Kara chose not to be by Oliver's side while he's dying because she's an asshole, but since the story is that Oliver made a deal with the Monitor that he would die so Barry and Kara would live, storytelling-wise, Kara not being in this scene just feels wrong. So Oliver draws their attention to something up in the sky. Apparently it's an end and a beginning, and Oliver dies. Again. And it's a touching scene, the acting is good, but frankly everything that led up to this has been such a creative quagmire that it just doesn't have the impact that it should have had. That's where part 4 ends, and oh my god. Even the most stubborn and ardent Arrowverse defenders are going to have a hard time making excuses for this one. This was the episode where everything absolutely fell apart. This was the one where all the innumerable stupidities and plot holes of parts 1, 2, and 3 finally caught up with them and compounded on the story until it collapsed under the weight of the writer's sheer incompetence. And believe it or not, there were times when I was almost enjoying this one. There were big stretches where no one was doing anything stupid, and Barry, Kate, and Kara were not being such horrible characters that it was downright offensive. This almost felt like a good episode, until you start actually thinking about it, at which point it turns into a swirling vortex of stupidity from which there can be no escape. First of all, the Paragons being stuck in the Speed Force made no sense. Oliver said he was using their memories of moments where bonds were forged between them to keep them from getting spit out of the Speed Force. So you figure that would mean that each character would be in a memory wherein they cemented their friendship with each other or something like that, but instead they're in completely random scenes that have nothing to do with anything. Kate watches a random conversation between Oliver and Ray that she wasn't even there for in the first place, and neither were any of the other Paragons for that matter. Sara was reenacting that time she was a corpse in a scene that, to the best of my recollection, never even took place at all, and none of the other Paragons were there either. Then John was watching an argument between Oliver and Kara in which nothing was really resolved, and he tells them that they would grow to trust each other, but that didn't happen in this scene. None of these moments had anything to do with the bonds that were forged between these Paragons. The scenes were completely arbitrary. So what the hell was the point of any of this? As far as I could tell, there wasn't one. This whole Oliver becoming the Spectre thing was just dropped on us from out of nowhere without a second of build-up. The whole side plot on Maltus is instantly rendered meaningless when the climax starts and the Anti-Monitor shows up alive anyway. There's that huge battle with the demons that should be really exciting, but instead just looks ridiculous because these demons can be killed so easily it's downright laughable. And then there's the Paragons just standing there holding their dicks while Oliver sacrifices himself to save the multiverse a second fucking time, just putting the exclamation point at the end of the rant that the entire Paragon storyline was completely fucking pointless because in the end, they didn't actually do anything. Nothing that any other random assortment of people couldn't have done just as well or better. You literally could have pulled 6 random assholes off the street, called them Paragons, taken them to the dawn of time, and gotten the same result. Or, how about this? Just forget about the Paragons altogether. Like I already pointed out, the only 2 characters you really needed here were Barry and Oliver. So have Barry take Oliver through the Speed Force to the dawn of time, then Barry fights the demon army, he's powerful enough to defeat that army in seconds with his fucking eyes closed, Oliver fights the Anti-Monitor, and the story ends in the exact same place. So ultimately, 6 of the 7 Paragons who were supposedly the crux this massive crossover hinged on were completely inconsequential to the entire story. With the exceptions of Oliver and Barry, none of these clowns did a single damn thing that affected the outcome of this shit show in any way, shape, or form. And to top it all off, the cherry on the fucking cake is that all of this, all of it, could have been so easily avoided. Literally all they had to do was load up the Wave Rider with all the heroes, or get Barry to speed them all to the dawn of time, fight the Anti-Monitor, and save the multiverse. I guess Oliver still needed to die to become the Spectre because he was the only one powerful enough to defeat the guy, though I'm not sure why Jim Corrigan couldn't do that. But they didn't have to find the other Paragons. The Paragons didn't do shit that couldn't have been easily done by somebody else. Oliver and Barry were the only ones they really needed. And hell, once they had the Wave Rider, they didn't even need Barry either. Not if they were smart enough to do all this before the antimatter wave consumed everything. But they weren't smart enough to do that. Nobody in this cavalcade of idiots knew how to do anything right or get anything done except Oliver. And he's dead now, so what the hell are we left with? I'll tell you what we're left with. We're left with one more leg of this shitstorm to get through. I don't know how it could get any worse at this point, but if the stupid meter can possibly be cranked up any higher, I'm sure these writers will find some way to do it. That'll be it for this video. Stay tuned for part 5 when we finally finish this beast off.